Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and we're back with another banner comparison video, and we have the 1.1 banners right here. Silverwolf's banner is on the first half, and we have Luocha's banner on the second half with the new character Yukong as well. But not to worry, I actually have a graphic here that's already done, putting the two side by side. So before we begin, I think the most important thing that I want to highlight is Yukong is actually going to be a free character. If I wasn't mistaken, it's like 1.2. She's going to be a free character available for everyone. So if the new character in like Luocha's banner was a deciding factor, don't let it affect you. You'll eventually get her as well, so not to worry. Of course, if you want like further Eidolons, this will be a good banner because she's appearing for the first time as well. So how do I think in terms of the two banners? Let's first talk about the characters, the other characters here, and we'll go into Yukong towards the end of the video as well. But we'll of course talk a bit more of her kit later on once the game goes live and numbers have actually been finalized and I tested her myself too. So Danheng, Asta, Serval, as well as Tingche, they are all free characters that we get through like certain milestones, pre-registration rewards, and completing Forgotten Hall. So a lot of the question of these banner really is, do you want their Eidolons and do you play this character a lot? So if, for example, if you play Asta, you play Serval and Danheng quite a bit, I think these are definitely go up a notch or two. All of their constellations or Eidolons are very, very good. Let me talk briefly about what sets them apart. So Danheng's E1 to E5 increases his damage overall in his kit. His E6 transforms him from a DPS role to a more of like a sub-DPS role. For those of you who don't know, his E6 basically gives him additional speed down in terms of the percentage. I think it's like 10% more, which makes him almost close to on par with Welt, or maybe slightly higher if my memory doesn't fail me. This makes him a very strong speed down boss controller, and especially if you already have like another DPS build, like maybe you have Zealer, you have already Jingyuan, he becomes more of like a sub-DPS boss controller type unit, scaling him for the end game as well as you transition your characters to 5-star main DPSs. So that is really solid as well, makes him more usable in the long run. Asta, on the other hand, while Danheng is more positive, Asta's Eidolons really revolve around reducing her negatives. A lot of the problem with her kit is based on the RNG that she gets from the charging stacks or the users of skill points, because it just keeps needing to have their uptime. Her Eidolons remove a lot of that. For example, like when you cast her ultimate ability and then her charging stacks don't reduce, or her charging stacks reduce by minus or less by 1 with her E6 as well. So it just keeps that attack buff uptime a lot higher, and I think her E4 also increases her energy restoration rate if, for example, she has 2 stacks or more, if I recall correctly. So it gives her much more overall kit as well. Other than that, Serval, for those of you who haven't seen, I did an E6 Serval with an E0 Jingyuan comparison. It's really interesting. I think you should check it out. I do think her Eidolons are really quite solid. It does make her a very strong contender for a lightning AoE DPS. Nothing to be scoffed about. Very strong DPS in her own right. She's a free character too. Insane. So I think she scales very well all the way to E6, great amounts of damage. Tingche, same. I think Tingche is a character that really needs more Eidolons to really pop off. Her Eidolon 6 is really strong. She recovers 1 skill point when she uses her enhanced basic attack. She drinks a lot of skill points, so that really solves it quite a bit. Her E4 is interesting, does a lot more damage in her overall kit. I want her E4, I don't have it yet. I think I'm like E3, so I'll definitely be going to try to go for max copies of Tingche personally for my account. Good amounts of DPS if, for example, you're skipping, maybe you skip Zealer, you skip Silverwolf, but maybe you're pulling the husbandos like Jingyuan, Luocha. I think a very strong Tingche will make a lot of sense, because you will probably be lacking a bit in terms of quantum damage right now in your roster. So very, very good in my opinion that she comes in Luocha's banner, thinking about the dynamic of like players who pull Zealer maybe are likely to pull Silverwolf, and thinking of that kind of concept. Pella, on the other hand, also another really strong unit. She's more of like a supportive unit at E0, but as you get more and more of her Eidolons, she actually becomes a huge damage dealer. She gets buffs, for example, speed buffs if she manages to remove a buff. She gets ice resistance shredding when she uses her skill at E4 as well, and her E6 just makes her a very potent damage dealer already. I have her at E6, really, really tremendous. I use her as a AoE DPS in the same likes of, for example, a character like Jingyuan, Himiko, as well as Serval. And not only that, she also does defense shredding on enemies. Very, very strong. I think it's also very solid. Yukong, on the other hand, for those of you who don't know her kit yet, she is basically an attack buffer, an imaginary 4-star harmony attack buffer with the likes of Asta, Tingyun, as well as Bronya. what she does is she casts her skill, gives an attack buff for a couple of turns for her teammates, and she generally that buff disappears after a couple of turns of your teammate has taken. So what this means is your teammates should ideally want to be a bit slower or take actions outside of their turn order. Characters that come to mind are like Esther, you have Jingyuan who has his Lightning Lord, Clara who followed up attack counters, you have follow-up attacks in Herta as well as Himiko from that kit, and that works very well with Yukong also. But I do think you can also build her for speed to make up for that downtime, and her burst ability, her ultimate ability, deals good amounts of single target imaginary damage to a particular target, as well as also increasing, for example, I think the crit rate and crit damage of the entire team as well. So a very, very strong character at E0. I'm not familiar exactly with her Eidolons yet. I'll be talking more about Yukong once her kit is finalized and official in the official launch. So do stay tuned. I'll do it on day one, I promise. A build guide video for Yukong. That will be in the second half when we are all guaranteed to get from the Luocha banner as well. So what are my thoughts now that I've talked about individual characters, because a lot of us might be looking for individual characters, but now as a banner as a whole, I think, in honest, particularly biased opinion, I think Luocha's banner is slightly stronger than Silverwolf's banner, if I were to be really honest. And the reason for that is Silverwolf is a very, very useful character right now when you don't have many characters in your account. I already did a comparison on both of them on the channel. You can check it out if you're interested. I talk more about that. But she adds so much value to an early game account. She just drops weaknesses on the enemies, making it very easy for you to clear content. So naturally, the game, what they are trying to do, Hoyoverse is not dumb by any means. They double down on characters that are free so that you'll have a limited roster to play around with. If they gave you a broadening roster, her utility not only decreases slightly, but also in a sense, you will have many other options available, and probably you won't see her value, and maybe a lot of community might get upset. By giving you free-to-play characters and restricting your pool by doubling down on the characters that you already have, I think Hoyoverse is making a right decision to bring out the best in this character. She excels in bringing out teams with lack of depth in terms of the variety of characters. Where she suffers a little bit is when you have a lot of characters already, and for example, if you have every character in the game, you will see that her value diminishes significantly. So I think they made the right call of making this banner a little bit more geared towards free-to-play units, where characters that we already have. If you are not using any of these 3 units, I don't think you will see much value in the 4 stars in this banner. But then again, if you already have them at E0, getting them to E6 faster means you will be able to get more of your refund in terms of the amount of for those of you who don't know, if you have them at E6 and you pull the character, you actually get a 1:1 exchange. What this means is, for example, let's say I had all 3 at E6, which I don't. You actually get a refund every time you get back one of these characters, and if you're guaranteed to get a 4-star every 10 pulls, this means, let's say every 10 pull you get one of these guys, means in 80 pulls you actually are only spending effectively 72 pulls worth. So that is a 10% discount on future banners. So think about it in that kind of concept. I think it's still good amounts of value, even though the 4 stars are like free play or common. Luocha's banner is really strong. I think this is like one of the better banners as well. Of course, Jingyuan's banner is also really strong. And looking forward, I think most likely Blade's banner is going to be good. They always give the slightly worse banner to the female characters, and the banner of the male characters are super strong. I'm very excited to see Blade's banner in future as well. He has been leaked. Hopefully Luca, the new character, is also going to be released with him. But for Luocha's banner, Pella's extremely strong. Like, I think she's one of my favorite characters in official launch. Can be used as a sub DPS, can be used as a nihility defense breaker with light cone, resolution shines as pulse of sweat. That also gives additional defense break. Super solid. I really look up to Pella, and I hold her in high regard. Qingxue is a very strong damage dealer. As mentioned, if you skip, for example, Zealer and Silverwolf banner, you are a Husbando puller, you likely won't have much quantum damage, and if your roster is so thin, having this additional quantum is going to be really nice. Yukong, of course, a good addition, a good harmony buffer. You can put her on with planetary, the one with the light cone with Esther's face on it, the one that gives buffs same type damage. If you have Welt and you have Luocha together with Yukong, you're on your way to a pure imaginary team. Very strong already, because you have your supports here done, checked already. All you just need to do is slap on 2 more damage dealers and you have your full imaginary team. Welt can be the AoE damage dealer, and all you need is like a Han class imaginary character and you're more or less done. So I think between the 2 of them, I will rate Luocha's banner maybe slightly behind, just a little bit behind Jingyuan's banner, but probably really strong as well. But Jingyuan's banner is super strong. You have Susang, you have Tingyuan, And as you know, you don't have any physical characters. Ting Yun is so good. Other than that, March 7 maybe is like the only one that is quite meh. The average of these 3 characters probably are higher than March 7 in my opinion, but March 7 of course at E6 is also a very strong unit as well. And if you like such content, you might like the team comp videos that I have on the channel also for Silver Wolf or Luocha depending on your drift. And thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.